Sometimes when you get to that stage, your feedback comes that you actually need to downsize, right? How many bikini girls have heard this? Hundreds and hundreds and thousands probably. How do you do it though? That's the real question, and that's what we're talking about today on the Iron Palace. I'm Ryan Milton from TeamFFLEX. You're on my show, The Iron Palace, every Tuesday. Right here on TeamFFLEX TV, we come in and we talk about your training. We cover all different topics, contest prep, and everything else. And it's just one of the 5 shows I run all week for you. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, please, and thank you. I appreciate it. Let's dive into today's topic, downsizing. This is something that comes up actually more than you might think. Obviously, in any division you're competing in, no matter what, there's a criteria to fit. Both male and female, you have the criteria. Let's take bikini for example. It's this hourglass shape with symmetry, proportion, the right development, the right conditioning. A lot of times what can happen though is competitors actually go to stage and maybe they're a little overdeveloped in one group or another, right? They have too much muscle on top, too much muscle lower body, and the feedback from the judges is actually bring down some muscle groups. This is what we call downsizing. And a lot of times right now with the introduction of wellness and everything going on, we have a lot of athletes that may have thought they wanted to do wellness, but now they got to move back to bikini because they actually don't like the wellness look, or they're being told by judges you're kind of on the fence, you need to downsize, you need to grow more to go to wellness. So really it's going to be this combination of where this happens all across the board. It obviously happens in the male divisions too, between bodybuilding, classic physique and men's physique, and so on and so forth. And basically overall there may come a time where you do need to downsize, all right? That means you got to actually shrink your physique, lose some muscle sometimes, and that's just the way it is. Kind of reshape your body, if you will, to fit the criteria of your division. But a lot of people have no clue how to do this. So today I want to kind of break it down for you, simplify it, let you know a little bit about it. Hopefully you get something out of this you can take if you're in that spot and try to do it. Otherwise, obviously Coach Ryan can help you, all right? Let's talk though. So downsizing, when it comes to actually doing this, it is literally the act of losing muscle, usually, all right? A lot of times it's not related to body fat. Sometimes it can be very little, but I mean, even if you're losing, if you came to stage with too much body fat and you lose a little bit, it's still oftentimes not going to put you in the spot. And so if you're getting too muscular, if too much muscle up top, bikini girls, or too much muscle lower body, you don't want to go to wellness or something like that, well, now you're in the mode of downsizing. And here's what you have to do. You really got to look at your physique from a unique perspective. Like, where is your physique right now versus where it needs to be to actually be on stage? You're kind of almost reverse engineering what you do on a standard prep anyway, right? When you start, when I start training a new competitor or something like that, I'm seeing where they are now versus where they need to be to get on stage. But when you're doing it this way from the stage, and now you're going kind of like improvement season to get back to stage, well, the improvement season actually becomes not adding more muscle, it becomes taking away some muscle and saying, all right, well, here's where we were, how do we get that downsized so we can go back and fit this criteria even better, right? And so it's kind of reverse engineering where you're at and going into it that way from that perspective. Now, you got to look at each person and realize, all right, what were your strong points here? What are your weak points? In other words, what are the areas that you need to actually bring down? Because most of the time, it's not going to be the entire physique, okay? Usually when I've had to do this with competitors, I see some type of an imbalance. They're just starting with me and they're already 12 weeks out or something like that, and they've been training this way for a long time or prepping with this coach for a while, and now they got this imbalance going, right? Maybe they have, this upper body, this smaller, like bikini criteria should fit perfectly, but the lower body's just way too developed, way too big glutes, way too big legs, quads, all that. Well, that means we need to reduce the quads to actually make that symmetry happen. And again, this is the same in all divisions. You got to look at each muscle group and see what actually needs to be brought down. And a lot of times you can get this feedback from the judges too, which is very helpful. But if you have a good coach, somebody that knows what they're doing, it's very easy to see. I can see this in seconds when I look at a new athlete. So basically, you figure out what groups need to be brought down, and then when you're training, you got to avoid overdoing these areas. A lot of times when athletes have these overdone spots, these areas that are too developed, too big, too muscular, that require this downsizing, they're actually compensating a lot. They're using, compensatory patterns where they might be using those muscles more than they actually should be. For example, I've had people that need to bring up their glutes before, and they had to downsize their quads, but they figured out since their quads were so developed, every time they train glutes, they're actually training a lot more quad than they thought. And so it takes this, intention and cognitive effort to really focus on training not that group, not hitting the quads when you're doing glute day, but really trying to isolate each muscle group and really train it. And also the exercise selection becomes very important. You want to make sure that you have the right exercise selection to the point where you're going to be able to fit this in and get the actual exercise you need to maintain that muscle, maintain that shape, but still downsize it and bring that criteria. You don't want it to turn into body fat, right? You don't want to just stop training muscles, but the exercises you do need to be very specific, very targeted, and often much less. We're going to keep talking about downsizing right after this break.
TeamFFLEX.com presents a revolution in the online competition coaching experience. Contest prep has been redefined. From anywhere around the world, at the touch of a button, your entire totally custom coaching experience built just for you. Constantly monitored and adapted by your own expert competition coach. The most complete competition coaching experience awaits you now. Go to TeamFFLEX.com and try it free.
If you need help with any exercises to downsize your physique, figure out how to match these muscles better, do that free trial. Go over there, request any of us coaches, and we'll be able to take you through this on the trial and show you exactly what we're talking about, all right? But basically, when it comes to downsizing, you gotta remember, you gotta have exercise in the plan. You can't just quit training muscle groups, but the ones you do and how, often you're doing it, how much volume, all of that comes into play. I'll tell you guys, for a standard approach, kind of a generic, if you will, a lot of times, any muscle group you're trying to bring down, you're gonna do only a handful of exercise on, a couple, maybe twice a week, if that. It literally depends each person and where they're kind of at, but you're not going to go into the gym and be doing 12 exercises, 8 exercises, 5, 6 sets, things like that. Really, you're going to be doing 2 to 3 sets, maybe 4 or 5 exercises max, 2 days a week, something like that, for these groups you're trying to bring down. And this is going to really enable you to be able to actually downsize while maintaining your shape and actually letting you get into a spot now where you're going to be able to actually downsize that muscle without burning it out and putting it in the right spot for now you can hop on stage and it's going to look really, really good, okay? Sometimes, though, this process can take longer. And this is the last thing I want to talk about. I know I'm talking a lot and there's a lot of things going through your head right now if you're this person. Subscribe to the trial, seriously. If you're still here and you need help with this, I'm happy to help you. But basically, the timeline. You got to think that this timeline to lose muscle could actually take longer than it did to build muscle, right? It can be a lot harder to lose it for some people. Some people can do it very quickly, very easily, but here's one thing you can pull out if you need to. And you can bring this to your training plan, bring this to the game, and that's cardio, okay? A lot of times very beneficial for any ladies too, right? You're trying to downsize to get in bikini or something like that. Your feedback was your legs too big. Cardio, but specific kinds of cardio. You don't want to do, Stairmaster and things like that where it involves a lot of muscle. This is, again, going to just target these muscle groups that, likely are already too big, and you're going to have a hard time doing that. The best kind of cardio, a lot of times, if you're trying to downsize, it's going to be something very low resistance elliptical or, walking, literally walking, even outside, just taking a walk, doing this kind of stuff that's going to, put you in a spot where you're burning and you're doing some stuff, you're working these groups a little bit, but it's not near the intensity that you would do if you're on a Stairmaster, things like that. And the cardio will help you downsize faster because now you're adding caloric deficits and things like that to this kind of factor where you're trying to downsize. All right, so that's really how you do this. Any of the divisions, male, female, this will work. You got to find that targeted muscle group. You got to really figure out what exercise you're going to do, train them less, and if you need to, bring in some cardio, and it will work. Just remember, you got to be patient with the timeline. Keep assessing your physique, making sure everything's shaping out. And really, the best way you can do this, the fastest way, is to get a qualified coach. All right, so check out our free trial at TeamFFLEX.com. I'm Ryan Milton from TeamFFLEX. Thanks for watching. Coach Rye is out.